Greetings, I'm Solidus-Skully, and welcome back to Resident Evil Code Veronica. After this cutscene we pretty much switched to disc 2, and it's right about here where I turn the television down because I'm an idiot. And the romantic music begins to set the scene, and Steve begins to act like a bit of a creeper. But it's also important to note here, he's 17 years old, Claire is 19, so make of that what you will. That being said though, it does also begin a weird subplot that I don't think was fully fought? No, yes, many battles were fought in the name of this subplot. But no, the subplot wasn't really thought through and really comes off as more puppy love than anything else, but well, you know what, we've got a few bits and pieces of dialogue coming up, so I'll just let this awkward scene play for itself where Steve is denied, his dick is so cold, ba-ba-ba-bam. Although that's also for kind of apropos given the location they're in right now, so yeah. I'll let Steve fill you in on where we are. We could be anywhere. Hawaii, Antarctica, Australia, Antarctica, which is also where the thing was set, I believe.
Hey, where are we?
Huh?
Latitude 82.17 degrees. That's the Antarctic. We're over the Antarctic!
What? Hey, those are the seaplanes that left the island right before us.
Then that must mean this place belongs to Umbrella.
Oh. Hey, wake up, Steve.
Oh. We're still alive.
Thanks.
Plane's trashed. Well, let's split up and find another way off this oversized freezer.
Right.
Okay, let's do it!
Yeah, to very briefly comment on this awkward shots romance between Claire Redfield and Steve Burnside, well, there seems to be a little bit of divide about it, like, again, it's... well, you know, you'll see what happens to a budding young couple in the events to come, but, yeah, it seems to have been a bit of a divide in terms of development here, because, like, I mean, I think, at least from what I can tell from the script, and at the very least the cutscene animations, they clearly want to imply that something's there, but I've also heard, Claire's voice actress Alison Court actually say that it's not that Claire necessarily cares for Steve in the sense of, you know, a lover or anything, but, more so in, like, an older sister kind of way, which again, I guess makes sense considering the fact that, you know, Claire's the more experienced of the two, you know, she's been through the whole Raccoon City kind of thing, and given how immature Steve tends to be, and, you know, some of her back and forth between him, it's kind of like an older sister, younger brother sort of dynamic. And in that way, like, I mean, it does kind of make sense given some of their actions, but I get the impression the game's scriptwriter clearly intended it to be a romantic thing, and you're going to be seeing a bit of evidence of that, well, again, if you haven't already, a little bit later on, but again, I'll pretty much stay my tongue on that for now. In the meantime, though, the zombies under attack once again. They just won't leave us alone. But, yeah, schmuck bait. Although you do get a fair amount of supplies in this room, so, it's kind of worth clearing out the zombies if you want to get stocked up a little bit more. At the very least in terms of handgun bullets, so you can pretty much just take out the rabble. I can only selectively roll my R's. I actually had an unused, take of this commentary where I tried to say, "Welcome to Antarctica," but I couldn't roll my R's effectively. I couldn't even do it there, really. So, yeah. Stuck between a rock and a hard place. That rock being Australia and Antarctica. It's like a rock iceberg, except made out of ice. But, yeah, apart from visiting the location of the thing, which, I'm quite surprised, this game never actually attempted to adapt, because, I mean, Resident Evil is rife throughout its history with, being a bit of a pastiche of American horror movies gone by with a Japanese twist, and, yeah, they don't really tend to do that, so I guess either nobody on the dev team saw the movie, or it was, too scary even for them. Because, I mean, I will say this, John Carpenter's The Thing still holds up even to this day, and, that's not something you can say about a lot of movies from, 1982. But, I mean, regardless of such, again, close segment of the Antarctica base isn't quite as long as you might think. I mean, there is enough plot per distance traveled, so that you do have a fair amount of things to explore, things to learn, things to do. And again, it doesn't take so long that navigating the facility is just monotonous, but this does come with a bit of a caveat that we will be exploring, well, in a part or two from now. But in the meantime, we're also going to be getting a bit more context building and a little bit more to learn after we continue another rousing game of item management, the game. But yeah, in the meantime, to talk about brass tacks and objectives and whatever, yeah, our main objective at this point is pretty much to turn on the power, because, yeah, it's kinda cold in this little base, and, well, the heating's ain't been on for what feels like 15 years. Who's been paying the electric bill? Alexia? But, yeah, as we learn here, it seems that Edward Ashford, one of the founders of Umbrella Inc., pretty much discovered the mother virus, which I guess was this early name version of the progenitor virus. But yeah, he pretty much found it with, Spencer. They don't seem to bring up James Marcus, which is odd because Resident Evil 0 was in development at this point. But whatever, basically they pretty much just discuss, well, basically how the Ashford family's reputation is in a bit tatters, and it's mainly just down to Alexander Ashford being a bit of a bitch, and of course Alfred inheriting his father's, well, suckishness, and basically leaving the Ashford family in ruin. But this is about the time where we begin to delve into the Ashford twins in a bit more of a creepier light. Obviously we have the incest and, well, you know, all the creepy vibes that come with that, but, with a focus on Veronica, and the fact that they want to restore the Ashford name, it seems that there was a bit of a long game gambit in regards to Alexander's plan to restore the family name to what it should have been. But of course, in the meantime, we have noises. Who or what could be causing that noise? And I might as well actually bring it up in a bit of trivia, actually. Particularly in regards to the battle game here, because, yeah, believe it or not, this rat is actually sentient. And, in the battle game, you can actually find, like, a little diary that it leaves. And, for whatever reason, the developers decided to give it a backstory where it apparently survives the events of the game, so... yeah. It's a mouse named, DIJ, which is standing for, Developer In-Joke. Why? I literally have no fucking idea. Anyway, this is, more to do with a butler. Again, as we already established beforehand, this, in the original drafts, this would have been the, well, Nazi ally of, well, Hilda and Hilbert Kruger's, father, so again... I imagine that he probably would have made a flesh and blood appearance in the game, but in this case he's pretty much just relegated to, well, side content, and he's pretty much very loyal to the Ashford family to the point of basically being like, oh god, I would rather commit suicide than see the Ashford name in tatters, but it would dishonor you, which is a rather Japanese way of going about it. Like, I mean, given the British royalty, like, that seems weird, man. Like, I mean, suicide out of shame is like the way of the samurai, not the British noble monarchy kind of stuff. But, unfortunately, again, when we go to Antarctica, we do get a few new enemy types, but unfortunately we trade one annoying enemy for another, as we trade bats for, well, their more annoying cousins, moths. And these enemies are annoying for one specific reason. The first of which, when they capture Claire, they pretty much lay an egg sac on her back, so, yeah, they can cause some additional damage alongside their little, poison sputter there. And again, with the fact that they can poison you, it pretty much means that you have to use a blue herb. And again, while there is one right next to you, that basically just leaves you open for more chances for them to, again, lay another parasite on your back and then continue to poison you. Bada bing, you do the thing, and the fact that it's pretty much your one-stop shop to save, and a hallway in which they always respawn, makes it incredibly fucking annoying. But again, like, I mean, while this is pretty short if you know what you're doing, there is also a fair bit of intricacy in the design here, and something that will become a little bit more noticeable as we get into Chris's scenario, because again, given the fact that this area is so short, there are very specific steps that you need to do, but it is kind of saved by the fact that, again, area traversal is, well, pretty short and sweet, so again, not a real issue, but, yeah, just more gameplay for your game. For you see, the more I mention the abstract concept of game, the more good it is, because game! I'm an internet personality talking about games. Therefore, I am immediately qualified to tell you what you should and shouldn't like, you fucking sheep. Oh, wait a minute, I was being too mean. Of course, it's just my opinion, and you're free to have your own. Except mine's better, and if you dare question my judgment, I'll fucking kill you. Whew, I'm cynical tonight. But anyway, to talk a little bit more about, well, first of all, we got a machine gun here. Probably best save that for when you need it most, because that thing can come in quite handy, and there is also ammo for the thing, unlike pretty much any of the other percentage weapons in the game, frankly, which is quite odd. But again, a lot of what you're doing here is basically, well, completing the base in its own right, but also set up for Chris. Again, if we had the lighter, we could pretty much access this right away, and quite frankly, it's one of the few instances where I think having the lighter as Claire would benefit you, because, you want to know what's in there? Handgun ammo. Something which is only really useful against zombies, if that, and, you know, considering what you're going to be facing off against as Chris, even now as Claire, really, with, you know, the Bandersnatchers and, you know, the moths, it's really not that useful to have handgun ammo. But the game gives you plenty of it, so again, much in the same vein as Resident Evil 3, the game gives you a handgun when you need, you know, submachine gun, not as an option, but as the answer. So, yeah, basically, it's pretty much translated to you're gonna make do with a handgun when you could really use some fucking shotgun ammo and some grenade rounds. But again, that's really what Code Veronica does to position you in a factor of horror. Pick your poison and, well, conserve your ammo for the moments you need it most, and, again, I will admit, a lot of this does come with time and practice, and, again, I don't mean to use this in a joking way, but when you get good at the game. And again, I know that's a bit of a Pavlovian term for, you know, covering a game's flaws when you're experienced with it, but again, I do genuinely mean it, because, like, I mean, Code Veronica, more than any other Resident Evil game, doesn't really coddle you in the same way that Resident Evils 2 and 3 does. I mean, 3 doesn't coddle you quite as much in the extent that, you know, you have Nemesis, and depending on whether or not you want to go after him, you know, the game is about as easy or as frustrating as you want to make it for yourself. But Code Veronica, on the other hand, is more than happy to kick your ass if, you know, if you're just willing to waste your resources. There's plenty of ammo to go around, but by that same volition, if you're, you know, a bit wasteful, if you're, again, very save-happy, then you're gonna find yourself getting screwed over quite easily, and in some cases, I don't think it's entirely fair, because there are some instances where, again, if you're really that bad at the game, there's a bit of a you can't continue moment, but again, the same thing could really be said of any Resident Evil game, so, like, I mean, if you're getting to the point where you don't have enough ammo for certain bosses, then really, that's more on you. But again, I say that in a little bit of jest, because again, that really does depend on whether or not, you know, classic Resident Evil is for you. I wouldn't recommend Code Veronica to be anybody's starting game, because even I'll admit, despite the fact that it's my favorite game in the series, it is something of an acquired taste, and, well, your mileage may vary, but again, if the game clicks with you, you'll really enjoy it. But again, otherwise, if I was to recommend a classic Resident Evil game to start with, I'd honest to God recommend Resident Evil 2, really. Like, I mean, I know in terms of graphics and capabilities and everything, maybe the 2002 remake might be the place to go if you want to get used to tank controls and all that, but you know what, I'll save my thoughts for the Resident Evil remake when I eventually get around to covering that, but, yeah. In terms of the classics and, you know, PS1/Dreamcast era, yeah, Resident Evil 2 is the way to go. That's mainly just down to the fact that I think Resident Evil 2 is probably the easiest one to get accustomed with, but at the same time, though, you know, it gives you a taste of the characters and, well, is a bit more refined than Resident Evil 1, but at the same time also has a lot more to offer and, well, basically gets you familiar with everything, really. I kinda lost the plot at that point, so, onwards to new adventure. Now we must bow down before another enemy type, long introduced in the Resident Evil franchise as a bit of a staple, the gas mask. No, not the gas mask. The spiders. A legion of spiders. And, yeah, they also do have the ability to poison you, and, well, again, it pretty much simply is as simply does. They'll spit acid at you, they'll try and take a bite out of you, and, well, basically, just blast away at them with a grenade launcher, and jobs are good. And I mean, really, they've pretty much been with the series for the longest time, and I couldn't imagine life even without them. But that's not really what you're here for, is it? Aside from tacky enemy designs. So now it's time for some more trivia. And this is really to do with Edward Ashford, which I think is a bit appropriate given the facility, but inversely to a lot of his descendants, most of the Umbrella hierarchy, and, well, the Ashford family in general, really, Edward Ashford was actually, like, a legitimately decent dude. Like, I mean, when he was, you know, conspiring to build Umbrella, he wanted the company to be just your average pharmaceutical corporation, you know, and he wanted to use the progenitor virus for, you know, actual medical purposes, you know, cellular regeneration, you know, trying to find cures for diseases. So again, like, he legitimately went into this company with the best of intentions, which really does kind of put him at odds with the likes of Oswald Spencer and, you know, James Marcus, who had very big delusions of grandeur. And again, like, I mean, even insofar as, you know, Code Veronica, like, I mean, it is explained that he had the noblest of intentions, but, I don't know if the game outright states this, or if this is, something added in a later game, but, yeah, since Oswald Spencer is, you know, a bit of a shit, likes to play with his victims, as George Trevor found out, yeah, it's basically implied that he pretty much killed Edward, and Alexander Ashford pretty much had to take the reins of, you know, his experiments, and since he was a bit of a fuck-up, he pretty much ruined the Ashford family's legacy, to the point where, well, we'll get into that, but let's just say the results, creepy. Like, incestuously creepy. Really creepy. But yeah, tedious puzzle with a conveyor belt, basically put a little barcode sticker on that, and that'll pretty much tell us where this thing needs to go. Because otherwise what happens is that this thing pretty much circles round and round and round and round about, round and round and round and round about. And pretty much just stops right here, really. I've never really worked in, like, this sort of, like, shipping and handling sort of, thing, so, is this kind of how the system works, or is it done, like, a little bit more advanced with, like, computers and stuff? Just some old curiosity, but, I don't know, I guess maybe, by barcodes and scanning of which item needs to go where tells the computer system where to conveyor belt things? Who knows? It's fascinating to know where conveyor belts lead, and, it ties into that also familiar childish desire to ride on the conveyor belts, because when you're a kid, you're just thinking, whee! And don't lie to me, pretty much every kid has had that sort of fantasy at some point whenever they went to an airport or, you know, saw a conveyor belt in a movie or something. It's just fun, fun, fun! But anyway, get the gas mask and we shall lay claim to our reward. There is actually a massive reason why you want to get the gas mask early on. It's basically to save a bit of time with an upcoming cutscene in the next part, actually. So, yeah. You'll find out why in a little bit. I mean, I will admit, it is a bit of a pace breaker when you don't know what's coming ahead of time, but at the same time, what? It's an extra fucking 3 minutes out of your day, so really, it's nothing too big a sacrifice. But in the meantime, though, we've pretty much cleared out most of what we really need to get done, and, again, that's part of why the mods are just fucking bullshit as enemies. I mean, much like the bats, again, they can hover around, and it's really difficult to aim towards them, because, again, they move quickly, and they don't really have a predictable pattern, so... yeah, you're pretty much just finagling around until you can get the right shot. I mean, really, it's just kind of quicker to just run down the hallway and take your chances, honestly, so... it's all just a bit pish. But in any case, we're coming to the end of the part, so on that note, I am Solidus-Skully, keeping new metal, and next time on the Resident Evil Code Veronica commentary, well, we're pretty much about to get a key, and, well, let's just take a look at who's lying in the basement idea. Catch you next time.